How you going? Going to show you something on my 440 today. I did this mod based on sort of my version of the Herb McCandless oil system modifications for the 440. Being that it's a solid roller cam, I blocked off the left hand side oil gallery for the lifters, and so that's the standard thing when you go on solid or solid roller. I I now have noisy lifters in this motor though, so I don't know if that's my fault, if these lifters actually needed the oil. But basically, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what I've done. I'm going to show you possibly how I've screwed up, and I'm going to run through how the oil system works for the blokes that don't know the circuitry on these motors, and then I'll show you what I've done. My version of Herb McCandless modifications. So here we go. Righto. So on this motor, I've got an external line. So oil comes from the pump. Now these fittings, they were leaking. That's why I've wrapped them in tape. Because what I had, the drama I had, was you leave the car sitting for say a month, and they'd leak air into past the seals in these fittings. So then you'd lose prime, and then you'd have to pull the distributor out, slide the shaft down in there with the drill, prime the motor, put the drive gear back in, put the distributor back in. Such a pain to have to do that before you can start the engine. You know what I mean? You've lost prime. Like, you wind the motor over a few times. Oh yeah, I've got no oil pressure. Great. So then you've got to prime the oil system every time you drive the car. It's just such a pain. So this definitely got to be replaced. But for the purpose of just explaining how it all works, oil pumps here, same as a plastic Holden V8. The position, the Holden engineers must have copied the Chrysler. Not surprising. This particular setup is external line. So from the sump, pulls oil up here, gets circulated around there, no drama. But hang on, the oil goes up here, directly up there. It's the front main bearing branches off of a passage that goes up inside the engine and feeds the right hand oil gallery. Then from there, from that main lifter gallery, the mains are fed from the lifters first, which is purely for production engines to keep the lifters quiet, so that when you start the engine, you know, the first thing that gets oil is the lifters, so they shut up. You know, they don't go clackety clack, and engine gets a bad name in the industry or whatever as a noisy engine. So this is the crossover passage at the back to feed, you know, the left hand side lifters. But what I've done, and what is the standard sort of approach, is that they block this, or partially block it, so that, you know, this side, so that, because all the mains are fed from the right hand side gallery, there's no real need for lifters on this side of the motor to have oil fed to them as well. So this is partially blocked. This is my version of the Herb McCandless. What Herb would do was he'd actually drive a Welsh plug into the passage to block it off, and then if you wanted, you could drill a hole in that, and, you know, whatever. Basically blocking this side, but the lifters in this motor now make a bearing sound, like a whirring, or I don't know, a radial bearing sound. So I don't know if these lifters, these are new old stock Federal Mogul lifters that are in this motor, and I don't know if they actually needed the oil that I've blocked. Yeah, I mean, I've blocked the passage, so they weren't getting oil except for drain back. So I don't know if I've killed the lifters and cost myself $1,000 or what, but I'll pull this plug out now, and I'll show you my version of the Herb McCandless, oil mod. So here we go. This is the plug that I made up. Bloody stuck it in there good. So I drilled out a factory core plug. And there we go. And stuck a bolt through it, tapped it and stuck a bolt through it. Then locked two nuts onto each other. I don't know if you can see it, but then I peened the thread. Oh, just hang on. So I locked two nuts onto each other, peened the thread over on the end of the bolt. Hang on, this focus is bad. There. Then ground the nuts down to suit the internal diameter of the oil galley. Because what you're supposed to do, what Herb McCandless recommends, is that you drive a small plug in, a Welsh plug, deep enough that you're going past this, so that you're still getting oil to here to cross over, but not oil down into the lifter gallery. I mean, hydraulics you need oil, solids apparently you don't, but I'm going to go back to running both of them open. I'm just going to get a normal factory plug again and just run it as stock. Yeah, killed a set of lift as well. I mean, they've gotten so noisy that I don't want to run the engine anymore. Last thing I need is a set of lifters, or a lifter letting go and breaking a $500 camshaft. That's not fun. So yeah, I mean, ordinarily you'd drive a plug in to block that, and then put your drive a Welsh plug in, and then put your ordinary 3/8 screw plug back in. But what I did was, so that it was removable, made my own, and it goes deep enough into the passage that it blocks it off, but doesn't hinder anything else. I mean, Herb McCandless specifies how deep you had to drive the Welsh plug in there if you had a little Welsh plug. And I just made sure the bolt was long enough to do the job. So anyway, yeah, that's Timo's special version of the Herb McCandless oil system modification. I mean, he does also tell you, because this is the feed passage to the mains, the block has to be drilled out. He says, I don't know, 932 or some size like that, but that's 932 works out to almost 7.5 millimeters. So I just got an 8mm and bored them all out to 8mm. So yeah, feed passages from the lifter galley down to the mains are all 8mm, which apparently, it's more or less 5/16, which is the same as big block Chev. So yeah, that's the Timo special version of the Herb McCandless oil system modifications for a big block Chrysler.